Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. My name's George. I just wanted to take a second to thank everybody who's been watching my videos lately. I just finally hit one of my milestones for 250 views total on my channel. I know it's not the greatest achievement in the world, but I never thought it would even get to there. So I'd like to thank everybody who's personally watched the video. Not to sound beggy, but if you could help me out, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe if you can. Trying to get this thing going. Like I said before, I really want this to be like my full-time job, if possible. But on that note, I'm going to do my review for Glass. But first, I would like to just say that I kind of want to try to do something a little bit different in format, because I kind of feel like that the way that I've been doing my other reviews has kind of been more of like a synopsis overview instead of like an actual review. So I'm kind of trying something a little bit different today. Anyway, like I said, today I have for you the review of Glass. It is the final film in the Eastrail / Unbreakable series. We have Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, and James McAvoy returning as the main characters, with the addition of Sarah Paulson, and we also have the return of the characters from the other films. If you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, I kind of have this series linked with the Dark Knight series, and you may be thinking, this series is no way as good as that, but after I saw Glass, I had my first initial response, because I saw it with a close friend of mine. We both at the end kind of had the same opinion, which was that everybody else had. We were kind of like, really, that's the movie, that's the end of the movie. Because, like I've seen other reviewers say, the first two parts of this movie, like the first two acts of this movie were great, but also where it fell short, like critically and with a lot of other people, was the ending. I don't feel that way. Originally, like I just said, I did, but after I've watched the movie a couple other times, like I said, my other two reviews, which is why I've been doing this series, is because I have a newfound respect for it. And you're wondering why would I compare it to such a great series as, the Dark Knight trilogy? Well, it's kind of quite simple. The first movie, Unbreakable, and, Batman Begins, are more so the origin stories. They're laying the groundwork for the series ahead of them. That's where I find the similarity in that one. The similarities aren't necessarily in like the cinematography or the film overall in general. It's just kind of like the arcing of the stories over the series. The second one, Dark Knight and Split, to me is more of a psychological movie. So that's where the similarities in that one come from. And then in Glass and The Dark Knight Rises, of course, you have the final conflict, the end of the series, so to speak. This movie, like I said, when I first saw it, I thought everything that every other person thought. I thought, I'm kind of disappointed, I wasn't happy. But after I've watched it a couple of times, I found that this movie is really brilliant. And I really give M. Night Shyamalan a lot of credit, because I have liked him before, but after this series and this movie, Glass, I really have newfound respect for him, because in this movie, he does a lot of things that other superhero movies haven't and are afraid to do, I feel. But before I get into that, I would just like to say, all the people who were in this movie, all the actors and everything, their portrayals were spot on. There was not one person in this movie whose performance I was unhappy with. Even with the story. People are going to say that this is not like the best written story, chronologically. Of course, you can always nitpick little things, but that's one thing I would like to say that is different about my channel, because, although something could be bad or not necessarily to what you thought it was going to be from like a critical, view, there's still good stuff going on in movies. I do feel like the industry is kind of running out of ideas right now. But yeah, this movie is just so well grounded and so well rounded, not to make a pun, but like I was saying, it's all the actors' performances, like I've said in my other reviews, that M. Night Shyamalan somehow can just get better performances out of certain people. Like I said before, I do like Bruce Willis, but in all of his other movies, I just kind of feel like he's the same person, but not with this series. Samuel L. Jackson. He's always kind of the same person in different movies, not in this series. And then James McAvoy, who's usually great all around, is just a next level of great acting because, like I said in Split, James McAvoy just destroys everybody else's performance in this movie. And everybody else's performance is great. One thing I will say about this movie is I do like Sarah Paulson as an actress. I'm glad she's in this movie, and her performance is great. I don't have any problems with her performances. But just my biggest thing with this movie that I didn't like is some elements of the story, mainly being the ending, this is a spoiler, but the whole like big bad guy overseeing everything type of thing, and Sarah Paulson kind of being this like implanted person. It's okay. Could have been better written. I'm not sure if the story necessarily needed that. I mean, it does to an extent, but I'm sure there could have been other ways that things could have been done. But the biggest thing, like I was saying, that people don't like this movie or thought it was bad was because of the ending. And, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but at the ending, basically, everybody dies. Bruce Willis's character dies, Samuel L. Jackson's character dies, and James McAvoy's character dies. Like I said, originally I hated that. But after I watched it a couple times, kind of having a newfound respect for this series, I'm happy with it. And looking back, I don't feel like there could have been any other ending for this movie. Because, yeah, it sucks they die, and it's unfortunate, and you're kind of like, what the hell? And I don't know if he has any plans to do anything in the future with, like something related to this series, but they opened the door for the possibility of him, making like another Unbreakable type of movie and kind of resetting up a universe, because in retrospect, it's kind of what this is. I really wasn't expecting to feel this way about this series looking back on it. And there's a lot of great shots in this movie. And overall, the movie is just, I feel like I don't want to say underrated, but I feel like critically it doesn't get the respect that it deserves. And like I said in the beginning of the video, people are probably going to be yelling at me saying, how could you compare a movie like this to the Dark Knight trilogy, which is almost a perfect series? I mean, DC still has not recovered since then. As much as I love them, they just haven't been able to resurrect that magic from that series. And like I said, I'm not saying that, the Unbreakable series is necessarily in the same ballpark as that, but it's still a great movie, and I feel like it's almost just as good, except for, like I said, a couple of the story elements, things like that. But everybody's portrayal in this movie is great. There's not a thing that I would change about any of the performances. And one thing that kind of gets me in this movie is that, at the end when everybody dies, everybody kind of has their own tragic way of dying. Samuel L. Jackson's character is basically dying because James McAvoy, hits him too hard, and it's kind of a horrifying death, considering, he hit him here, and he's kind of dying, bleeding out, but there's also a beautiful moment between him and his mom. Bruce Willis's death, I'm not a huge fan of. I didn't think he needed to die. I thought it would have been cool if maybe they would have, somehow made him go back to being like a normal person or something like that. I didn't think he was going to get his head stuck in a pothole and killed. And then James McAvoy's character, his death scene just kind of stole the show for me, because you have his character and you have Anya Taylor-Joy's character, who at the end of Split, you don't really think anything of it, but through the progression of the characters, you see that, she has been thinking about him. And in a world, like I said in Split, in a weird world, you could kind of see these two being together if James McAvoy's character, wasn't psychotic or the Horde. Like if he would be able to be Kevin, or at least one of his personalities, like all the time, then I could see that working out. So I do find it almost kind of like poetic justice that he dies, because, in this movie we find out that he's really not a bad guy. We find out that his character, like I said in Split, he could have been a good person. And I think he kind of, to an extent, is a good person, but, you know, the whole, you know, mental disorder type of thing is kind of what brings it back around to the opposite. But when he dies in her arms and he's bleeding out and he's kind of, you know, all of his characters want one last, you know, time in the light, you can't get a better performance than this. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say that James McAvoy's character in Split and in Glass may be one of the best acted characters that I've ever seen in a movie. And I'm not just saying that. One thing I like to say about Bruce Willis's death, you know, as big of a fan as I wasn't of it, as much as I didn't like Bruce Willis's death, it's gratifying. But the biggest thing that kind of killed me and choked me up was the emotional response that his son has after he dies is what kind of gets me in this movie. And it's not only being a parent, because like I know I have thoughts of stuff like that happening to me or my daughter all the time, but the actor who plays his son really conveys that emotion really well, of being upset and angry, and you know what I mean? The biggest twist, which I thought was great, that I didn't even see coming, which I'm sure a lot of people didn't, was that, you know, in the end, it was revealed that, you know, James McAvoy's character in Split, when his father, you know, goes on the train and never comes back, we find out that Elijah, you know, Samuel L. Jackson's character, orchestrated, you know, the train crash in Unbreakable. But we didn't even know that, you know, James McAvoy's father was on that train. So he killed his father, thus creating the Horde. And all these psychological problems that, you know, James McAvoy's character goes through in Split and in Glass. And it's a really big reveal. I wasn't expecting it at all. And when I saw it, I kind of had that, like, you know, because in Split he talks about how his father got on a train. Not knowing it's related to Split, or Unbreakable, and even if you do know it's related to Unbreakable, it's kind of in the back of your mind. You don't think like, oh, well, that must have been the train that Bruce Willis was on. You kind of think, yeah, he just got on a train and left. And like that, like I was just saying about James McAvoy's character, sorry to go off topic, but when you find out that, you know, that's the reason why his dad never came back, and that's when his abuse really started. That's when, because of Samuel Jackson's character, he basically did this to Kevin. And you kind of hate Samuel Jackson's character for it, but by the end of the movie, he thinks he's going to outsmart them. And Sarah Paulson's character in this, you know, organization kind of put a lid on it, and you think, all right, well, that's it. They kind of died for nothing. But then they hit you with the end game, no pun intended. You know, you find out Elijah, it was all not for nothing. His plan was so smart and so conniving, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but they think that they have him beat, and then at the end you find out that no, he wanted you to think that, and he beat you. Just, it amps up Samuel Jackson's character much more. Like I said, I don't have like too big of a comparison between the trilogies, just the fact that I feel like they're equally as good as far as, you know, beginning, middle, and end. The resolutions and everything, I feel like they're pretty comparable. And I'm not trying to rip on Avengers, but any other comic book movie or superhero movie that has ever come out in the first 3 movies has not done what these two have done. And, you know, like I was saying, I really applaud M. Night Shyamalan for making this series, because what movie or what superhero or comic book series is killing off people and, you know, having these like subplots like this? I just think it's genius. I think it's brilliant. And like I've said in my other reviews for the other 2 movies, I think we're going to look back at the series in a couple of years and go, wow, that was really, you know, ahead of our time and so smart. That's the thing I love about it, is these movies are smart, and that's one thing that's not happening a lot in films anymore. I don't want to ramble on too much about this and make too long a review. Like I said, I'm trying to do a little bit of a different format, so I don't have like my notes written or anything like that, just because I've seen the movies over the last like month and I feel like I have them memorized pretty well, and I don't want to, like I said, kind of have like a plot synopsis and go through the movie scene by scene, unless that's what you guys want. But anyway, I still don't understand the reviews for this movie. I said, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I love it. And I think there's going to be a lot of other people who love this series. But anyway, that's kind of my take on it. I don't want to take too much of the time. But I do want to bring up one more thing. I would like to ask for your help. If you guys can, please subscribe to my channel. I'm not a beggar, and nor do I like asking for people to do this. But it's kind of more of like a confidence thing that will encourage me to make more reviews and do more things with my channel. Because I feel like things are going pretty well, but I don't feel, I'm never embarrassed to ask for help. And like I said, I would really like to do this as my career. So that's why I would like to ask for your help. If you could please like and subscribe. My big thing is subscribing right now. Like I said, I'm not trying to beg for it, but that's why I'm going to leave it at that. But anyway, I would like to thank you for watching my video. I'd like to thank you guys again for getting my views up to what they are. My Halo Loot Crate box will be coming next week, so that will be my next video. Like I said, please like and subscribe. That's it for today. I'll see you guys on my next review or opening, and I look forward to seeing you guys. And don't forget to leave a like, comment. Let me know what you thought of the movie. Let me know if you agree with me. And I'll see you guys next time.